It's us again. Welcome to Jeanne Mayo's 100X Leadership Podcast. And I am sporting my cadre hoodie today. Thank you very much. So all the cadre gang out there, hello, got the hoodie on today. And so I am with the Fearless Vance again.
Fearless Vance.
Isn't that nice?
I like it.
Does your wife call you that, Fearless Vance?
She should.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about 7 things that ministry leaders tell you, Jeannie, in private. In all of the conversations that you've had with many ministry leaders, just some of the things that they tell you that they might not be telling to their congregations.
Yeah, things that they aren't telling to their congregations. Matter of fact, things from a leadership perspective, whether they're paid or volunteer, that fortunately the Lord's sweet to let me have a kind of persona that makes them feel they can trust, and they can. That's why I'm not saying any names, but these are reoccurring themes that I hear over and over. So let me kind of blast these themes from a leadership perspective. Okay, are you ready to hear everybody's secrets?
I'm ready to hear them all.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you anything that's really worth money, and it's not going to make the internet. Okay, all right. First thing that I hear so many leaders tell me in private, whether, again, they're personal, from leadership of a company or business, in a marriage, but also leadership, especially from a ministry perspective. They tell me that ministry was more fulfilling and fun in the early days. You know, and many of them say after they go on a paid staff, it was really more fun when I was volunteer. It's fun to address this with you, Vance, because what's really happened in the last year, it's been my privilege. Vance and I have been good friends since a retreat small group that we made the journey together. I met him and said, what do you want to do with your life? And I secretly began to say in my head, I want to hire this guy, but there was nothing open for him at that point. But now it's just been a year, and he's been on full-time staff with us here at Victory Church outside of Atlanta. He runs Fusion, our young adult ministry. So what are some of the things that you've experienced, if you have, that maybe it was more fulfilling, more fun before than now that you're paid for it and you're doing this full time?
I think the simplest answer is things are always more fun when there's no expectations.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah,
and
that's
so
brilliant.
As a volunteer, it's all like, man, when I walk through the door, check mark. I'm here,
that's really
I'm serving. You know, the expectations are different than when you're on staff.
Oh,
and
that's so true.
I think that's one element that makes it more fun. I think I'm also experiencing, I think, kind of 2 levels of this. So I think it's more fun to not have any expectations. For instance, like not preaching every week, because when you're a volunteer, you can have a bad week.
Absolutely.
And it's just like,
you can even listen to the guy preaching and talk about how rotten he was, but too bad. No skin off your nose. All right.
Exactly.
Thank you, Granny. All right, go ahead.
And then I'm also still in the early days of me being on staff and doing ministry full time. And so I'm having a ton of fun with it right now because I'm still learning. Everything's still fresh. And so I can see how I just see it from those 2 vantage points. One, the lack of expectations when you're just volunteering and you're just doing it out of the kindness of your heart. And, you know, it's no big deal. I'm here and it's all great because I'm here. And then now still being in the early days of it just being fun because I haven't even been in it long enough to really, for it to get super mundane.
Good for you.
So, you know, I'm still learning, even speaking every week, you know, it's more fun than it is taxing because I'm just learning every week. And I would like to keep it that way.
I would like for him to keep it that way, you know. But truth be told, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people feel led of the Lord to get out of leadership circles, because eventually, you know, Michael Jordan would tell you that practicing basics in basketball got boring at some point. But you can't become a master in anything you're not willing to go through boredom with. And so, gosh, I can't tell you how many people have transitioned off different teams I've run because they were bored. They're not emotionally motivated. And I'm thinking, well, you're stupid because you've done it long enough to have a clue. I mean, when you were bad, you weren't bored, but you were clueless. But other factors that kind of go into that, it's not as much fun. I think sometimes none of us are getting rich if you're doing it for ministry. So I think money pressure can play into it. I think the miracle results we thought would happen probably are not happening. At least not as fast as we thought they would, you know. And the hours of expectation. You know, when, it's so much more fun when you can call in sick or something and nobody's going to really, I'm not in the mood tonight. Okay, so first thing I hear often is ministry was more fulfilling and more fun in the early days. Secondly, I hear when I'm alone with people something that sounds like this. I wonder secretly if any of this really works for the long haul. And gosh, I resonate with that, you know, especially if you're, let's say you're a leader in church circles, you poured your heart for a period of time into somebody that really matters to you. And then they decide to pull the ripcord and they're out, maybe not all the way spiritually, or maybe they are. Even last year, I had some people that I adore, still present continuous tense, who pulled the ripcord on certain things. And gosh, my own heart was crushed. I felt rejected. I thought the lie in my head was, look, if they pull the ripcord, who am I kidding that what I'm doing is going to work for anybody else? Because they got way more of me than normal people. And if that wasn't enough to help them make some different decisions at key points, I'm kidding myself. And so, you know, I wrote on my notes here, I think we've got to realize that for lots of people, and especially youth and young adult culture, spiritual highs evaporate real carefully. And again, you can feel super futile and like nothing I'm doing is really mattering. And sometimes even in your head go, I'm not sure what I believe myself. I know what I'm telling myself I believe. But the enemy is a master at fanning doubt that you feel not allowable in your own life. Do I even think this stuff is for real? See, I say all the time, the person who's never truly doubted has never truly believed. And number 3 thing I hear people say to me, leadership-wise in private, is, I hate to admit it, but some of my own personal sin patterns are very much alive. And gosh, don't we all relate to that? You know, none of us would say we expect ourselves to be perfect, but as we become any form of leader or long-haul Christian, gosh, we thought all that stuff was going to go away. Surely by the time you've walked with the Lord X years, X months, let alone some of us have a title attached to our name. Gosh, you know, and people look up to us. And then we find ourselves counseling people who are dealing with the same things we're still dealing with. Isn't that true? And you're saying to yourself, this is a joke. I messed up on this last night. I cannot wait to hear what I'm about to tell you. And you feel beyond phony at those moments. At least I certainly do.
Absolutely.
And so again, just saying, gosh, I still deal with junk in my own life. To be able, we all preach the enemy is not the accuser of the brethren, grace, grace, not sloppy agape. That's not what we're all saying, but we all know it's easier, at least I do, it's easier to preach grace than to give it to yourself. On the other hand, to some of you out there that you give yourself grace too easily, you know, heads up to you, that's sin. Okay, can you at least call it sin and deal with it? You're adorable, but, you know, read the Bible on that one. And then number 4 thing that I hear people say to me alone is, look, the people I'm ministering to don't know their lines. And that may not make sense to you, but you know, I do the right stuff, but somebody didn't give the people I'm ministering to their scripts because I thought they were going to say different things. And so because of that, I feel like a failure, massive amounts of time. Now, okay, let me have fun with this one, Vance. Let's talk about some of the lines, and I don't even think we do it consciously, that we fantasize in our minds as leaders that people are going to say back to us in response to our fine ministry.
Your ministry has changed my life.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever heard that?
Not yet.
I don't know. I've only heard it a couple of times, and they were drunk when they said it. But nonetheless, okay, go ahead.
You know, I was spontaneously healed while you were preaching.
That's good.
You know,
Geronimo, thank you.
You know, I mean, I think just all the things that we want to hear. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
You don't hear that much?
I know that message took you 15 hours to put together. Thank you for that hard work. You know, I think it's those things. It's the things that we know are going on that we're wanting to see happen. We just imagine that person coming up and telling us that exactly what we've been hoping for and praying for has now spontaneously happened. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen as frequently.
Yeah.
As we would
Matter of fact, as people say to me all the time, oh, Jeanne, I know everybody tells you this, but I'm about to get a nice affirmation on the other side. And I usually stop the people and go, oh, whoa, everybody doesn't tell me this.
Yeah.
People line up to tell you as a leader what they don't agree with, what they thought you should have done differently. That's just the name of the game. I try to create a culture of encouragement and affirmation in the worlds that I move in. But Jeanne Mayo, number 2 son in the Mayo home, said when he got into full-time ministry circles, I've decided I was raised in probably the most affirming home in the nation, but out there, they didn't get the memo on the affirmation. So I hear the other stuff.
That's funny.
Then number 5 thing I hear in private is, hey, my relationship with my leaders, my mentors, the person I report to, my small group leader, my senior pastor, my board, is not what I had envisioned. I think we all have a hunger, at least I know I do, to be in some ways parented. I mean, we probably don't call it that, but gosh, I'm several years along, I still want it. With my husband already being in heaven, I so miss the side of him that, and this may sound weird, but he was not only my husband, at moments he was an extension of the father heart of God to me. And I don't have that anymore. And you want your leaders to say that. You want your leaders to take you out for coffee every week and have these heart-to-hearts and read your mail and know when you need affirmation and be able to read your mind and say, I know you're getting your head kicked in then. That's just not the kind of relationship that 99.9 of us have with our leaders. I say at the cadre all the time, if you have a leader or a boss who is in any regard affirming, don't leave them very fast. I mean, even if you get more money offered different places, because you'll so miss that someday. And then number 6 thing I hear often behind the scenes is, I sure wish I got a little bit more authentic encouragement. And I've already alluded to that, but I want it to hit the points here. Because people say to me, I usually only hear from people when they're a little unhappy with me. And gosh, I resonate with that. I work for amazing bosses, but my head boss, hey, this is not something, he's just not a flowery personality. And so, you know, again, sometimes I don't always hear all the things I yearn to hear encouragement-wise. Not because he's not brilliant. He's a brilliant leader, but this is just not his forte. And, you know, I just took a retreat and we had just at the high school level, I took, because I'm still local church here at Victory Church, a wonderful church outside of Atlanta. We took 820 people with us just on a high school local retreat. That's not outside. That's not bad. And just at the high school level, not young adults, not middle school. And you know what? My head boss, I'm sure he's proud of me. But hey, it's only normal that often people with executive function are not people that are forever saying, great job, this was so good, tell me what went right. You are an absolute epic hero for doing this, which we all, gosh, don't we all want? And that's why I think I talk all the time about how David in the Old Testament encouraged himself in the Lord. And that may get trite, but I still have to look in the mirror a bunch of times and say to myself, hey, you did well. Matter of fact, at the end of every retreat, Vance and I would tell you that at the end of every retreat, after the buses have pulled out, I make this little encouragement circle of whoever's still left there to clean up. I mean, it's just a handful. It used to be just one other person and me, and then the circle gets a little bigger. And I just stand there and say, listen, let's talk about what went right on this retreat. Mean, and it's because I know it's the biggest what went right I'm going to hear.
Yeah,
does that make
absolutely.
sense?
Yeah.
So I still do it. I make my own encouragement circle.
You mean the students don't email you about how their lives were
kidding?
changed?
No, I got fried from a parent. I won't even, I want to tell you what I got fried from a parent on the last retreat about, but I don't want to say it to you because I'm afraid the parent might watch this podcast so that they could dissect me further to the senior leadership. So I won't even say that.
Man.
No, are you kidding? All right, so good. And then last but not least, the thing that is said to me in quiet, confidential moments, and worded differently sometimes, is my own spiritual passion seems to have gone AWOL. My fervency, my heart after God. So when I'm leading, whether it's counseling or it's as a parent telling my family we're going to church this weekend, or as a ministry leader, when I'm up there, speaking, leading worship, communicating, when I'm leading, because my own spiritual passion and fervency and feeling level, code language, has gone AWOL, I feel, gosh, pretty phony. I think, gosh, if you could only know how flat I feel. If you could only know how many months it's been since I had a quiet time when I prayed that I felt Jesus listening to me. So that's a fun thing to wrap up on, Vance. Relate on that a little bit, that sense of my own spiritual passion.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're some big heathen.
Yeah.
But your passion, your emotional level has gone south and you feel like a little bit of a phony. Relate on that.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize until stepping in full time just how much of a kind of up and down.
Isn't that true?
And that's where I even said earlier about like being able to have a bad week, but it like the responsibility that you feel and the weight that you feel to, be the example.
Absolutely.
And to be teaching on something, you can just automatically start feeling disqualified based on how you're feeling that day.
Absolutely. That hour. Forget that
hour.
day.
Seriously.
That hour.
So there have been times, where, and I say there have been times, I mean, there are times all the time,
all of us.
Whether it's stuff with my wife,
absolutely,
coworkers, friends, whatever it is, where, it's like this rush of thoughts that comes in. Like sometimes you don't feel like being on point. Sometimes I feel like, you know what? I know this is wrong, and I still want to be a jerk right now in how I respond to this.
Amen,
however, then the pressure of feeling like, man, but I do need to uphold the standard.
It stinks.
Not just for as a Christian, but as a leader.
Yeah.
It can just get really weighty sometimes.
Absolutely.
And you can just start feeling like, man, I'm really not measuring up, and I'm not maintaining the 100% that I'm supposed to be, and able to walk on, to the platform and preach the gospel
with fervency and
with
wholeheartedness,
fervency and
brother.
wholeheartedness, because I was in prayer and fasting for
yes.
4 hours this
least.
morning.
But you fasted 4 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yep. This is day 39 of my 40-day fast. Every time I'm preaching, that's what you want, but
absolutely,
things aren't always going that way.
And so it's a meaningful way to wrap up, because I think in the church world, we are agonizingly phony sometimes. And we act like everybody feels certain sets of emotions.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the runway of doing this full-time ministry run for 5 decades, I've got to tell you, if the only time I did ministry was when I felt passionate, I cannot tell you how many times I would have quit. Matter of fact, my feeling, I've taught myself to almost not notice my feeling level spiritually, because it lies to me all the time. And so I'm going to wrap up by saying to you what many of you who've been in my life have heard me say so many times. Remember that Jesus on the cross was saying, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? In other words, he wasn't feeling this touchy-feely, passionate, connected to the Father. And so I think, again, for all of us, it is oftentimes precisely at the moments that we're feeling God the least, that we're pleasing him the most. So man, good. Thanks for being with us on my 100X Leadership podcast. Spread the word, and just know that for real, we consider it a genuine honor.
Absolutely.
To get to be in your life and help put you on our shoulders so that maybe your leadership can go to a little higher dimension.